The Fujicast is an independent loading zone production.
Saturday, April 11th, Easter weekend.
The Fujicast.
Yes, welcome to the Fujicast, which while lockdown is ongoing has become daily from the usual every Monday episode that we put out. It's been a way really for the photographic community of whatever standard, of whatever genre to connect. And whilst of course we do talk Fujifilm, inevitably because of the title and because I'm personally blessed to have Kevin Mullins co-present with me during the week, a long-standing ambassador for the brand and one of their most trusted ex-photographers, as they're called. You'll forgive me for pointing out that the ambassadors are called ex-photographers. Some people know, of course, here already, with a big X for X-series, and not X as in former, now no longer, back to the day job, because I've noted of late we've been joined by yet more folk who don't shoot Fujifilm. Not yet, at any rate. You're very welcome, and I hope you've noticed that the show has grown wings in all directions and genres to become a light entertainment outing with a dab of seriousness where it's needed. Of late we've talked landscapes and conflict photography, we've talked street, sports shooting, portraits, yes, weddings, yes, but also personal project stuff. There's the daily Monday to Friday photo challenge, which we've now decided to announce winners for at the start of the new week, just so we can allow a few more entries in from those of our neighbours in the southern hemisphere. The Friday bar nuts quiz and Wednesday's books that you should buy when it's safe to spend money on stuff again feature, which if you live in the UK and read, digest, believe the Daily Mail, should be sometime in 2025.
Don't be a cutie pie.
But having said all that stuff about it being brand agnostic, today's episode, ironically, isn't. We offered up a kind of flash mob chance yesterday to send Andreas Georghiades, the marketing manager in the UK, for Fujifilm, whatever questions you have about gear, the brand, the loan scheme, and even that wonder drug, Avigan, that Fujifilm's pharma division are testing in the fight against COVID-19. So, it's a mixed bag of questions, although one brand of focus. I think it's a daily episode where we learn a little about what camera brands are doing to get through this, because I would imagine in similar fashion, your brand of choice, if it's not indeed Fujifilm, will be thinking about the stuff you're about to hear today. So, no Kev today, it's Ask Andreas, who, by the way, will come back again to answer questions that our American and Australasian partners and our European neighbours might want to pose too. And remember, you can pose these in the Fujicast Facebook group that is open for you to join. Oh, and also to promote ahead, by the way, tomorrow on the show we talk to Gary Tyson, a commercial travel, portrait, events photographer and filmmaker based in Manila. And Gary's just come through a year where his business in Hong Kong was reasonably stripped bare of opportunity, a result of the social unrest in that country. Then a move to the Philippines is heralded by a volcanic eruption, only surpassed by one of the tightest lockdowns at the hands of this virus in the world. But he stays resilient, he stays hopeful, and he has his own plans for coming out the other side, as you'll hear. Today, though, it's Ask Andreas. Andreas, I'm going to start with a human element. How's the team holding up? How's the morale with you guys?
Morale of the team is quite well, all things considered. We are a very, very close team. We're office-based, so it doesn't go a day or two before we all see each other. So it's now been 4 weeks since we've all got together. I know that a lot of the people listening to the podcast are one-man bands or one-woman bands. So, yeah, no, morale's good. We're sort of like making the most of all the technology available to us in terms of video calls and messaging and what have you, and regularly staying in touch. And, we're managing as best we can. Morale of the team is great, all things considered. I'm not saying we're superhuman and we haven't had our low points. We all have, but we know that the rest of the team isn't too far away to sort of like pick each other up.
You must have the best conference calls in terms of pictorial quality. I tried to plug in my XT3 the other day. I thought, I know, I'll plug that into Zoom, and then I couldn't find my charger lead.
In theory, yes, but we're all limited to broadband, speed. So now that everyone is at home, sort of like gaming and sort of like on video calls and what have you, video quality varies.
We go through that dance every single time we do the podcast. I have to go and say, could you stop playing Fortnite just for half an hour? Dad, do your homework, Dad. Right, so shall we go for some questions?
Go on then.
All right, humorous one to start with. Kevin Mullins. Ask him if he's got any jobs going.
I think the warehouse is looking for people to disinfect shelves and boxes before they go out. So I'll put him in touch with HR.
Would he be qualified enough to learn the forklift, or would you not trust him with anything
We
like
wouldn't
that?
trust him with anything valuable, given his CV.
Yeah.
So
he doesn't use dividers. I wouldn't trust him with any camera boxes.
Yeah, exactly. And I've seen how he treats his cameras, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah. All right. Adrian Franklin, hi. I love the GFX 50S, but as an amateur, it's hard to justify the money, especially to my wife, he says in brackets.
Yeah.
Are there any plans to update this model and hopefully reduce the cost?
So GFX 50S has been out for 3 years, and actually the 50R has been out for just over 18 months now. So if you think about where the price point of the 50R is, it's £3,200. So it's come down massively from its introductory price of just over 4.5. So I think that we're doing our best, and what we would consider the prize fight, the price fighting model is the 50R. Appreciate the ergonomics are slightly different, but that's the one that hopefully he can justify to his wife. Otherwise, you always get refurbished and second-hand GFX 50Ss pop up for slightly less. But considering where we were 3 years ago, that the cheapest medium format camera was probably £15,000, and now that we're talking about 3s and 4s, I don't think we're too far off affordability in inverted commas.
Steve Vaughan actually has got a couple. Let's deal with two. With his first, likely delivery dates for the XT4s, please.
So XT4 in black and silver body only will be available from the 28th of April in the UK. The kit versions, so with the 1855 or the 16 to 80, are likely to be end of May. Shipping dates for different colours and what have you vary globally, so you might be able to pick up a kit from Japan slightly earlier, but I'll worry about the UK, seeing as I assume most of our audience is UK based.
Yeah. UK and America, actually. It's about 50-50 now.
Yeah, we're looking at end of April for the body only, so in both colours. And sort of like mid to end of May for both colours of the kits.
Notwithstanding shipping issues at the moment, then?
Originally that was meant to be earlier, but we're at the mercy of couriers and things like that, not international shipping.
Is the factory actually open and making cameras at the moment?
Yeah, factory's been open and making cameras from around middle of March time.
Okay, so that's it's not closed down then at the moment?
No. So the challenge was that it's primarily why we had some supply issues a month or two ago. So if you think about where China is in terms of their progression of the virus, they're sort of like a month or two earlier than us. So we were having delivery manufacturing issues sort of like February time when the virus was hitting them quite badly. We weren't sure who was coming to the factory to make cameras after their New Year. We extended the New Year holidays, things like that. So we've been back up to full capacity, I think, from around middle of March time.
Okay. I'm not sure. Obviously, I can't see the figures, but I would imagine some people have said, no, I'll hang on a bit and cancel their orders for the moment. Usually, of course, when a new camera comes out, you can't get it for love nor money for a little while. I would imagine with a sort of tempering of orders, that means it's more likely you can get hold of new gear.
So if we think about the cameras that we've announced in the past few months, we've had the X100V in both colours, sort of like silver and black. Silver you still can't get for love nor money. Black is slightly easier. XT200, the dark silver, wasn't available. It is now. And the XT4, both colours should be available, but I don't know back order situation or initial shipment, so I wouldn't be able to comment on availability from the 28th.
Right, Steve had another question. Any firmware updates for the X100V for claimed heat issues? He said it hasn't been a problem for him yet, but obviously he's read that somewhere.
It's always difficult to talk about future firmware updates and things like that, but the engineers and the product team are looking into every issue very, very seriously. We did announce on the 3rd of April a notice of overheating, and it states about using the camera for continuously for over 600 shots and shooting lots of 4K video and things like that. And you will notice slight temperature increases, primarily because of the way the internal circuitry was moved around to accommodate the tilt screen. So it feels slightly hotter,
right,
because more of the circuitry fits under the thumb grip. So in terms of how much heat the camera generates versus the previous generations, it's actually exactly the same. It's just because of the way things are internally, it doesn't dissipate in the same way compared to the previous generation. So there is probably going to be a firmware update as a warning to highlight when things reach their thermal limit, but not in terms of how things change, I think is the best way to describe it. To change how the thermal usage happens, I suppose, is the
right expression.
Really bad way to describe
No,
that.
yeah, you did it admirably. Carl Spring says, I suppose you've got the "can I have a free camera" covered bit done, but I'd be interested in whether the XH2 is more than a rumour. Are there plans to create new 1.4, 1.2 primes too, and whether the AF system on the Fuji... Well, there's a lot of questions here. Should we deal with the XH2 first? Yeah. We have talked about this before. I think we talked about this in London, didn't we? Yeah.
And XH line is not dead.
No.
Okay, so I suppose that's that. XT line is, like, we've just refreshed that. We've got the XT4.
Right.
When we originally announced the XH1 a couple of years ago, that was meant to be our sort of like more pro end. So like, it was bigger, it was bulkier, it was designed to go with the f2.8 lenses and things like that. So from that point of view, that is still a need in the marketplace. We sort of like still see the professional sports press photographers with their 1DXs and their Nikon D5s and what have you, D6s in situations. So there is a demand for a bigger camera with more durability and so like all the things that go with it. So XH line is not dead.
I suppose people keep talking about the XH because they're thinking, now you've got the XT and it's got the in-body image stabilization and all that kind of stuff. They're now thinking, well, I guess there isn't really a need for one now. But
yeah, but you can do so much, and the thing is, the beauty of our range is not one camera is built for everything, and it's partly the frustration of many consumers. What I like is the fact that the image quality doesn't change. So if you went XT30, XT3, XT4, X100V, X Pro 3, the sensor and the processor are exactly the same. So image quality is going to be nigh on identical. So your deciding factor is, what do you want from the camera? Do you to be small and lightweight? Fine, you go for an XT30. Do you want it to be a fixed lens so it's slightly more discreet? You go for the X100V. Do you want it to be all singing, all dancing with all the knobs and whistles? You go for an XT4. Do you want it to be slightly more stylish, etc.? You go for an X Pro 3. So image quality isn't the deciding factor, but there are other functionality benefits by going up the range. So you look at functions that are missing from an XT4, things like XLR inputs, or I don't know, that's probably the only one that comes to mind.
That's the one that's the only one I can ever think of. Yeah.
But there are things that you can add to camera functionality to improve. There is space for an XH line.
Carl's other part of the question was to do with the lenses. Are there plans to create new 1.4, 1.2 primes, and whether the AF system on the Fujifilm now is at a point where it's almost too good for the older 1.4 primes?
So the limiting factor of the focus speed isn't the lens. So we're still okay from that point of view. If resolutions of sensors continue to increase, and if we decide to use those sensors in future models, then I can see a need moving forward for newer lenses, because I think the current crop of lenses are good for about 32 megapixels. But yeah, so if there are sensors that go past that, then we'll have to look at updating lenses, but who knows?
I'm just looking at the questions coming in, by the way. Chris O'Sullivan had asked about the XH series as well. So, Chris, hopefully that answered your question as well. Yeah. Adrian Jap, now that, or Yap, would it be Yap? It would be Yap if it's in Holland or somewhere, wouldn't it? Anyway, now that the boatload of new models have been released, can we expect any major firmware? So we're going back to firmware, I'm afraid.
Yeah,
firmware updates for the XT3 soon to uplift the performance within the capabilities of the hardware, obviously, or features. I think really he's talking about these lovely new film simulations, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, as I said, it's always difficult to talk exactly what firmware updates might come, but can we expect more firmware updates for the XT3? Definitely. The camera's only 18 months old, and as we've shown with the X-T4, there's more scope in terms of what the processor and that sensor can do. So what firmware updates might be, I don't know. When that might come, I can't say.
Well, Diane Seddon kind of follows that one as well. Can you ask if multiple exposures in camera, more than 2, can be added to the X-T3, please? This is more
can it be added?
A wish list, yes.
Well, yes, of course it can be added. Yeah. Will it be added is a different question.
Yeah.
So,
but she thought it was in the works at one point. I'm not sure where she's read that or heard that.
I think it's our own. We make our rod for our own back in terms of when a new camera comes out, like the X Pro 3, and with that functionality, then it's able to do it. Then we sort of have that available in terms of technology. So that's why people think that it's definitely going to be in the works, because it can be done. If I was a betting man, I would say yes, it would happen. But as I said, I don't know when it might.
You heard it here first. Adam Beale. I'd love it if you could ask him if he knows anything about the future of the GFX range. We touched on the GFX, I know, but let's storm through his question. This system that I have not yet purchased, yet is probably keeping me from switching to a full-frame mirrorless. In the future, I'd like the GFX for commercial and portraits and the X series for my weddings and documentary. What is in the GFX 100 that makes the AF so usable and fast over the 50? Is this something we can see in a 50 in 2021 or beyond?
So the GFX 100 sensor has got phase detection pixels built in. It's actually the same, starts life as the same sensor as what's in the X-T3 and the X-T4, etc., etc. So it's that same backside illuminated structure, just with a Bayer color filter array, not an X-Trans. So you've got phase detection pixels, and that's ultimately the deciding factor of speed of autofocus. That's making it much quicker than the 50S. Currently, in terms of fabricators of sensors and things like that, there isn't a 50, 60 or 70 megapixel sensor that I'm aware of with phase detection pixels. So even if we brought out firmware updates for the GFX 50S and the 50R, to update the AF speed, you'd never get to 100S territory.
So at the moment, he's got to be looking at the 100, really, isn't he?
At the moment, if he needs quicker AF speed, he needs to be looking at the 100. But if he's talking about not needing that, then the 50 would be perfectly viable.
Sarah Child just DM'd me, actually. What kind of support is there for repairs at the moment? And as we start to emerge, how quickly can that all come back on board? Are you able to do repairs? That's a good question.
Yeah. So the Bedford office is still open as such. The camera service guys are factoring in social distancing and what have you. So where we would normally have about 7 technicians over the space of probably about 3 meters, we've probably got about 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Working. So what we've actually seen is demand for repairs reduce as less and less people are obviously using their cameras out and about. But if somebody right now wanted to get their camera serviced, excluding the fact that it is Easter weekend, they can go online, register, get the repair envelope sent to them, get it repaired. So it might take slightly longer, a day or 2 longer, but repairs are still happening and the service centre is still open.
I've got a couple of questions myself on this one. Well, tell me more about the professional scheme. We've really not talked about this much on the podcast. What it means, what you have to have, what that enables. Now, I realise it's going to be different country by country, so we're taking the UK one here.
Yeah, so if we look at the UK as an example, we took a step back and we said, right, what is the Fujifilm Professional Service about? And we wanted to give professional photographers a safety net and reassurances that should anything go wrong with their kit, that we will expedite their repairs. If we can't repair it within a certain amount of days, we would send them a loan, we'd give them cheaper repairs, we'd sort of like do sensor cleans and health service, so like a couple of times a year. And that's the benefits of being a Fujifilm Professional Service member. And then also when with the House of Photography, we've got a Longacre Lounge, which is a space for all FPS members to use as they want, basically, just to hang out, or sort of like a space in London for them to just take the load off their feet, meet people, etc.
Can you hold meetings there with clients as well?
Ultimately, yeah, you can hold meetings if you don't. It's not a private facility. because obviously there are other people there are people walking past. But yeah, if you want to meet someone there, that's not a problem.
Okay.
So that's ultimately the benefits of the FPS service. We then looked at the other schemes around, and a very clear, easy qualifying mechanic is to say, well, if you're a professional, chances are you're going to have minimum of 2 bodies and 3 lenses for X series. And likelihood is for GFX, you're going to have a minimum of 1 camera, 1 lens. So we've changed the qualifying criteria based on the year of manufacture of the camera. Something like an X Pro 1. If you had 2 X Pro 1s and 3 lenses, you wouldn't automatically qualify because that's a slightly older camera. And we would assume that most professionals update their kit because they're assets and they're working, and et cetera, et cetera. However, if somebody comes to us and can prove they are a full-time working professional photographer using X Pro 1s and the lenses that they have, we will override the automated system and make them an FPS member. So in essence, the trump card for anything is, can you prove you're a working professional photographer? By that, we mean, do you have a website? Do you have either company-headed pater, VAT registered, blah, 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 any of the qualifying criteria? And that will override any kit you are, in inverted commas, missing for the automatic qualification.
And just remind me again, what is the time period where you're hoping to get kit back?
So with as an FPS member, it's normally 48 hours or 72 hours. Depending upon the kind of fault. A lot of the time, it's more to do with parts availability than the ability, sort of like of the team not having the time to do it.
Tell me about, because this is new, this Fujifilm Connect idea to loan cameras. I would assume for free. I would assume this is happening because of this period. It's a perfect opportunity in marketing terms, isn't it, to get this kit in people's hands to be trying it out? It's
actually an idea that we've had with our friends at Hire a Camera since December, and it's just been a matter of sorting it out. And the timing looks like we've done it because everyone's at home, but actually it was something that was always on the cards. So all it is as a registered Connect member, you have the ability to borrow something for 48 hours free of charge. Now, we're not going to be sending out thousands of pounds worth of GFX cameras without asking for some sort of deposit.
No.
So you will need to put a 25% or a 50% deposit, depending upon how long you've been a Connect member and how much product you've registered. And it's just a way of us gauging people's affinity to the brand, because what we want to stop is the idea of someone going, right, okay, I've seen this offer is on, let me register on Connect. I don't own a Fuji kit, but I just need something for the weekend, sort of thing. And fine, you can do that. You'll just have to pay a 50% deposit for the kit.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'd loan it 48 hours free of charge. If you want to borrow it longer, you can pay to have it longer. As an idea, it's something that we've had since December time. It's just taken a while, given all the other product launches, to arrange the system.
Right. Do you want I'll give you a choice on this one. Do you want an off-the-wall one, an evergreen, or a wish list question?
I'll take all three, but I don't mind which order you do them in.
All right, we'll go evergreen first. Denver, Albury. I can almost see your eyes raising as I ask this question.
My eyes, if they rolled further back, they'd sort of like be in my neck, sort of thing.
I know it's a remote, says Denver. Stand by. If not non-existent possibility, but is there any passion stroke desire within the Fuji design team for a new 35mm film camera, no matter how basic? Oh, is he talking about film camera?
So he's talking film cameras.
Yeah, all right.
Unfortunately, because of the structure of Fujifilm, is the camera division the digital camera division isn't just the camera division.
Yes.
So I haven't got a clue what the film division are doing.
So maybe not. Tim Bender asked us about the COVID cure thing. And this is the off-the-wall one. Fuji as a company have Avagan. I know there's various different names for this drug. The share price went up, didn't it? And people got very excited about a different division of the company having a possible cure.
Yeah, so forgive me if the details, my details aren't great, but I believe Avagan is a product that we developed back in 2014 and was sanctioned by the Japanese government as a remedy to help flu.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the basis of it. And then now they're investigating whether or not it's suitable to help cure COVID-19. And Japan are in phase 3 of the trials. And I believe other countries have started their clinical trials as well. So the short answer is it's a completely different division and what have you. But yeah, it's really interesting from my point of view to realize how diverse Fujifilm is as a company, that we're not just making imaging products. It's like the other call that we had with the wider Fujifilm team was learning that the medical team are busier than they've ever been, because a part of the diagnosis kit that hospitals need is portable x-ray machines. And it's something that our medical team actually do pretty much the best version of that, and the most portable in the industry. So they're really doing their best. They're flat out trying to get as many of these portable X-ray machines to the NHS as quickly as possible. So while one division is helping with potential, so like medicines and what have you, another division is helping with the diagnosis and helping the NHS on that front.
It's incredible, the company, the size and the things that Fujifilm do. I've only really learned over the last month through reading about things like this. Yeah. Incredible. Yeah. David Yeoman's wish list question then. What are the chances, Andreas, of a monochrome X100 camera, please, for the 10th anniversary model?
Chances for the 10th anniversary, 0.
Okay.
I started working at Fujifilm this time around probably about 4 years ago, and I've been to Japan 4 or 5 times in that period, and every single time I go, I corner the head of the product division and I say to him, monochrome sensor, and they've stopped asking me to go to Japan. So
it can't be just that.
No. I am a bit of a pest when it comes to that.
Do you really ask them every single time?
Yeah, 100%.
I know.
Every time I see the senior manager.
I know Kev's keen on one, isn't he? They have a way. Kev always says they have a way in. What do they say? They never say no in Japan, do they?
In the, I think it's a part of Japanese cultures. They don't like saying no, so they have a couple of levels. So we will study. Is a product planner's way of saying not going to happen. We will study positively. Is I like your idea. We'll look at it, but probably not going to happen.
Right.
And then yes is we'll do that because we were already thinking of doing it.
I like their style. William Baslinton, maybe a yawn stroke answered before question, but any chance of an updated 18mm?
Of course, there's chances, but as and when, I don't know. I mean, the thing is, these sort of like lens update wish lists are. You can ask 100 people, and each person will come up with a different lens as their priority. For me personally, I want to see an update to the 23mm f1.4 and the 56mm f1.2.
Why? Just to bring them up.
Weather resistance and faster focusing. And I think from my point of view, because then you'll ask me, well, have I ever, I don't shoot professionally, have I ever used either of those lenses in the rain? And I'm like, no. Would I? Probably not. So why do I need weather resistance is going to be your next question. But I think it's almost like that warm and fuzzy feeling that you get knowing that one lens has got everything. So it's more psychological than anything else. And I'm a bit of a douche when it comes to tech specs and what have you. So that they're the lenses that I tend to use the most. So they're the ones that I would want updated. But you'll ask somebody else. You'll ask Terry in the office, who shoots beautiful landscapes and sort of like long exposures and spiral staircases, and he'll say he wants a new 10 to 24.
Do you know, I was about to be on my way. If I had a question, I'd say 10-24, please.
Yeah, it's like the challenge that the lens designers have is that where do you start? And from a commercial point of view, if you start updating lenses, will you kill the sales of the existing lenses because everyone else will expect those lenses to be updated next? And so you think to yourself, from a roadmap point of view, if Fujifilm announced Tuesday, a new roadmap that said we're going to update the 35mm f1.4, does that mean that all sales of 35mm 1.4 currently dry up? So you need to balance out this need for future information that we've made sort of like we've made that bed, so we need to lie in it in terms of giving people that heads up information. So if we do that and we update the roadmap, we need to know commercially, is it commercial suicide for the lenses that are going to be the Mark 1 versions?
I've got a couple of questions myself, actually. Thanks very much for answering these questions. I've got a couple then. Scott Johnson, typical of one of your ex-photographers to send in a completely off-the-wall question. But when lockdown, for myself, when lockdown is over and when the shops open up again, how soon until the House of Photography opens its doors?
I think Theo will be there on day one, making sure that it's open. I think it will be open as soon as we're allowed for it to be open. We opened it on the 3rd of December. It's been our second home, and it's given us a bit more of an identity and a base in London for photographers. We've held loads of events there. Obviously, we had the first birthday party for the Fujicast there.
That was brilliant.
We've done product launches there, and it's been really frustrating for us because we were just in the process of getting an identity for the place, and we were running loads of events and workshops and things like that. So it'll be open as soon as it's allowed to be open.
It's got a real vibe. Actually, we did have a couple of questions right near the start. They'll be hidden somewhere in the comments in the Fujicast Facebook group, where people were saying, "Oh, I bet you the House of Photography won't reopen again. This will be the death of the House of Photography." And I know that's human nature sometimes to think that way, but I'm hoping that's not the way.
No chance.
No. What kind of feedback and word have you had from HQ? Those in Japan.
Obviously, the most important thing is everyone staying safe. So every email that I get from the team, it's hope you and your family are safe and well, and that's always a priority with anything that both Japan do and sort of like the HQ in terms of UK and Europe. So that's always a priority in terms of the staff and the feeling. In terms of feedback, obviously, we then take a step back and go, right, okay, how are we looking commercially? And we're quite lucky in terms of having really exciting new models that people want, but it's a vicious circle in terms of all the pros, the weddings are getting cancelled and what have you, so they're thinking, right, I'm not going to invest in new kit and things like that. So we realise that there is, of course, a commercial impact with anything like this, but the most important thing is that all our staff and our teams are stay well and stay healthy.
Well, I've got one more question from myself then, and then I'll ask Scott's. Will you come back on again is my question, because I'm acutely aware at the moment that the American audience, who are 5-6 sometimes more hours behind, and then actually on the other side of the world won't necessarily have seen the call out go today for the Ask Andreas feature. So will you come back on when we can collect a whole load of questions from around the world?
I will happily come on the show as much or as little as you want me to.
No, that's fantastic. And I was going to say, obviously you can't answer questions about American offices or what goes on in Asian or Australian headquarters, but you might be able to give a little guide here and there.
Yeah, I mean, I'll do my best in terms of speaking on a wider concept. I mean, I know the teams in Australia and US quite well, but I don't want to speak on their behalf. So they run their marketing the best way for their audience, which is obviously, as you know, slightly different.
Right, it's Easter weekend. Scott Johnson gets the last question in. Ask him the best way to prepare lamb for a barbecue.
So there is no right way, but my preferred way, and actually it's ironic you start that because I've just prepared lamb myself. So I'll go red wine. Yeah. Red wine to marinate. This is how I do it.
Okay.
So it's in the fridge now, marinating.
Right.
Pepper, salt, and oregano. And so the way that I prepare it is it's cut up into chunks which are 2.5 centimeters by 2.5 centimeters, or 1 inch by 1 inch, depending on if you're metric or imperial.
That's very precise.
And it's just sitting in the fridge now, ready to go on the barbecue. And the barbecue has to be a charcoal barbecue. Otherwise, it's just an outside oven.
What would you serve with it?
Right now, we're planning to be very stereotypical and cook some halloumi on the barbecue as well. And then just pita bread, some dips, some salad. Keep it simple.
Well, I know we can't, but we'll all be virtually round at your place sampling that.
I will take a photo and make sure I post it on the Fujifilm.
Please do, and make us all envious. Thanks, Andreas. It's been a pleasure to talk to you, and I hope the family stay well, and we look forward to all meeting again at the House of Photography, and much easier to move around times.
Definitely. Take care, guys.
So that's it for today's edition. Tomorrow, Kevin's back on the show for a couple of thoughts. Then we have an interview with the multifaceted and multi-talented Gary Tyson, Hong Kong ambassador for Fujifilm, a Nikon shooter for many years as a combat photographer in the army, and somebody who's not known for diluting his thoughts or words. And he has a few feelings to share tomorrow on how we come out the other side as photographers.
I'm actually doing a big project at the moment for Lidl from Hong Kong, Singapore and Germany, where I'm editing the video here at home, which works perfect. We all need to really think very long and hard about how we come out of this. People who are one-trick ponies, who are just one thing they do, like weddings, for example, they might struggle, I guess, in the immediate future at least.
That and much more from Gary tomorrow. Keep your questions and your thoughts and what you're doing coming into the show to the email address, click@fujicast.co.uk. Those mails really do support us to keep interesting content. And a massive thank you to those who've donated in the website's tip jar, which has been really welcome for the hosting fees and whatnot to keep the wheels greased. Stay safe. Back tomorrow.
The Fujicast is an independent loading zone production. Email the show with your questions and words of wisdom to click@fujicast.co.uk. Email any complaints and political nonsense to our wives, who will deal with your comments in their own good time and in their own good way.